And baby, I'm TFC till I die.
Hello and welcome back to Toronto Till I Die, the Toronto FC fan show. I'm Mike Newell, and can you believe it? Preseason has officially begun. We've got players in camp, kicking balls in anger, and yes, TFC Live is as ornery as ever as your Reds are now in Spain getting ready for the season opener in just over a month's time, which is wild to think about. On tonight's show, we'll talk about the appointment of Robin Fraser as Toronto FC's 15th head coach. I can't believe 15 and 50. That's crazy. Set the stage for the Reds' stay in Spain, and we'll go over the last of our preseason over-unders from 2024 so you can start thinking about what we're going to do in 2025 and how bad me and Nesker are going to be doing that. But as always, bring in my co-hosts Jeffrey P. Nesker and Michael Singh. Gentlemen, how are we doing? Mr. Singh, we haven't seen you in a while, so Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys. Happy New Year to all the listeners as well. You'll notice I got a little bit of a different setup. It will be better next week. We got to build the room out here. Maybe decorate a little bit. Let's see if I can convince the fiance how much TFC gear I can get into here, squeeze into this room.
Was that a soft launch there, a fiance or?
Oh, I guess so.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Yeah,
there's been some updates
buddy.
with you, bro.
It's been a busy couple weeks.
Nice.
It's been a busy couple of
no
weeks.
doubt.
But yeah, I humbly just flexed, yes, that we
little flex.
We did get engaged.
Nice.
No real funny story about it. I wish I could tell something that was, untraditional. We bought a place, a condo, and my older brother, he had suggested a few months back. So my fiance and I, we've been dating for about 8 years now. And obviously, I'm 30 years old now. It was coming. And so a few months back, my brother suggested, it would be a great way to do it is just when you guys get a new place, just start the place off by proposing to, your girlfriend in that place, my girlfriend in that place. So that's how it worked. It took weeks and weeks of lying and manipulation to surprise her because she knew it was coming. It was about time.
Great way to start off marriage.
Exactly.
Come on, man. It's all shenanigans.
That's how it went
down.
Your
best friend. They're like your shadow. Of course they knew. Of course they know. Come on. But anyway, congratulations. That's awesome. All I did was lose a tooth and get puffy for like 5 days. So you definitely have me beat on that. Yeah.
That sounds miserable, Jeff. That sounds
Centennial Flame in Ottawa in the cold. That was me. So there you go.
Yeah. Okay, so we were all miserable. I thought you were in like Florida or something. I thought you went like to sunnier climes. Arizona, wasn't it?
Me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Last week.
Okay, so you still had time to go cold.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Okay.
One thing you said, Mike, off the top was 15 and 15, by the way, for TFC coaches. I never took that in. 15 coaches in 15 years for Toronto FC.
That's pretty wild. I actually didn't realize that either. Someone needs to make the scarf immediately. I speak for myself and Martin Bailey in that regard. Yeah.
It's a wild one. 100%. It is a wild one. But let's get into it, gents, because, hey, look, this team is now back. We saw the travel roster. The team's off in Spain now. Robin Fraser is your new head coach. Obviously, that is not new news for the sickos in the room. But I think it's funny, Mike, you texted us probably like an hour, maybe 2 hours before they actually officially dropped the news, saying like, or no, maybe it was the day before. You were like, "Hey, the manager is coming probably tomorrow," and I feel like this will.
I'm
be
okay with this
reception.
pick, but I'm not telling you who it is.
Exactly. Hey, he still has journalistic integrity. Okay, he's got to protect them sources. But you said it might be a lukewarm reaction from the fans, and I feel like that has held true.
I think that's a perfect approximation. Luke
Jeff and I talked about him on the last show, but I just want to get your impressions on Robin Fraser, and was it a surprise to you that they ended up going that route?
Yeah, you know what? It wasn't a surprise to me. First off, financially, right? It makes a lot of sense that this team, who more than likely still have Bob Bradley on the the payroll, more than
Yeah.
likely, in perhaps some capacity. I don't know this, but maybe there's still some payments going on with John Herdman, or there was a payment going on with John Herdman. Obviously, this team is spending a lot of money on its roster. It makes sense that they're going to try to, uh, secure the best of the best while understanding there's a budget factor at play here. And I think that's kind of what they landed with in Robin Fraser. A accomplished in some capacity, at least. He's accomplished some pretty decent things there in Colorado. He has obviously a very good rapport here with Toronto FC, and there's a lot of familiarity with Robin Fraser, his coaching style, the person that he is. That in that light, it checks a lot of boxes. So they go out, they get a coach who is proven in Major League Soccer. He's probably comes in at a decent price point for them. And the other thing too is with Robin Fraser, he unprompted, when I used to talk to a lot of the young Toronto FC kids, they would bring up Robin Fraser
Mm.
and really had nothing but great things to say about Robin Fraser as a person and as a coach. A lot of them really liken them to, helping their development. And I think he's going to play a role in that here. And I think we're going to start to see that shift in Toronto. Obviously, the two contract extensions go to, young players today, Luca Gavrin, a Canadian guy. I think we're going to see a push with the academy, and a push with investing more in younger players. And for me, Toronto FC being in a transition, I think it makes sense to go after someone who, you can call him a safe pick because you know what you're going to get kind of out of Robin Fraser. He's a guy that knows the club, club knows him, is going to be a guy that, invests time in developing young players, has going to have good relationships with a lot of the, I guess, important people that are going to be at this club for the foreseeable future. And to me, that makes a lot of sense, especially if you're going to transition. Now, I'm going to get ahead of myself a little bit, but let's just say Toronto FC struggle. And, based on the current roster, at least how it is, it wouldn't be a surprise to see them struggle,
It's a
right?
good bet.
Is there a coach that, is Robin Fraser's a good coach to help them rebuild? He's a good coach to help see that transition. Could he be that coach that steps up and propels this team forward and, maybe is the second coming of Greg Vanney? Too early to say, obviously, but perhaps. But for me, it's more so about what is he going to do day in, day out. And I think he's going to help a lot of Toronto FC's younger players that come through and help this team develop in a way that, while Bob Bradley attempted to do so, and while we've seen other coaches, come through in the past and talk about the importance of developing their young players, I think Robin Fraser's and, Jason Hernandez up top and the whole club, this whole club philosophy that's shifting is going to invest a lot more time in some of the young players.
And Jeff, you kind of talked about this on our last show about, and Mike, you kind of brought it up, this whole alluding back to 2016-17 with Robin Fraser. Is he going to be that second coming of Greg Vanney? That got brought up actually kind of in a weird way in the press conference for him. And this is something that I think you and I kind of worried about a little bit in terms of just like fan, just realistic expectations around him, and why are we bringing this up? But just wanted to sort of shift to you on that, like in terms of,
do you think
that's
not letting? Yeah, I mean, first we got Tertz. Tertz came in. Well, Mikey was waxing ecstatic about Robin Fraser and his benefits as a stopgap, and they said that about Terry too.
But Terry's never going to be a long-term solution. That was never going to be.
And then where is it down here? I think I lost it. Oh, Mike Forbes. He's a good stopgap. So immediately, without finding the like verbatim, isn't that the same sentiment as Vanny in 2014? Like before anything, like he's a good stopgap, you know, he'll steady the ship while we go and get somebody else, kind of thing. Or was it even more venomous?
No, it was, what are we doing? Like a guy who had never coached before. Like, what are we doing? Who is this guy? Like, so that was the sentiment.
Then our phrase has got a leg up, at least on Vanny in TFC land.
For sure.
With respect,
he's coached in MLS, right? He's accomplished stuff in MLS.
I mean, Vanny was his assistant for a while at Chivas, right? Like, you know.
No, other way around.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, no, Robin Fraser was head coach at Chivas.
Yeah, that's what I said. Vanny was Robin Fraser's assistant.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Just talking about how close they are, how they've all switched places. Here's my question to you. You know, we often talk about GMs coming in and they gotta have their guy as head coach. I have what do you think? Is Robin Fraser Hernandez's guy? Like they both played together. They spoke often about their playing days at the introductory press conference. They're both former defenders. I don't think that can be ignored. Would you be comfortable saying that this hire is Hernandez's guy as a coach?
I think that's fair. Like he's cool. Absolutely Jason Hernandez's guy. I say he should be Jason Hernandez's guy. It's Jason Hernandez making that decision. It's good that he's making that decision because there's no longer that confusion between the, you know, GM, president, head coach, technical staff, whatever it may be. It's now kind of a clearer direction from the sporting side. But yeah, I think I wouldn't be surprised if their relationship and their familiarity with each other played a role in Jason Hernandez appointing Robin Fraser as head coach, and that's not a bad thing at all, right?
Absolutely. No, I mean, but you understand my question, right? Like his feet, like if it's the GM's guy, then their feet are on the coals as much as the gaffer, right? So I guess that's the second part of my question. Like, is there a degree of separation over this hire sort of thing? I mean, it's a weird one because like someone in the chat said, you know, Hernandez played under Fraser during the glory years or the sort of end stage of TFC's glory years. Right now, now the roles have changed. So here it is. It's Vanny, Fraser again, right? Who's going to assist? Who's going to head coach? Kind of thing.
It's funny. I hear you, Jeff, and I think your thought process makes a lot of sense. It's just funny how, and I think this is true for all sports and all sports fans, how people always go there, where it's always someone's job on the line, or it's always someone's, you know, you're thinking about the next person coming in.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike started off the show by saying 15 coaches in 15 years.
Sorry, 18 years. I realized I could count from 2007, okay. So it's 18.
It's
still not great.
In 18 years, probably 6 coaches.
Canceled the scarves.
4 years. Right.
Yeah. And the only one that lasted in those 2 years was Greg Vanny, right? He's the one who bridges out the
exactly right. So I think continuity wouldn't be a bad thing. Now you want to do it with the right people, and you know, I'll touch on this briefly. Like from everything that I've gathered about Jason Hernandez, you know, that praise that he received from Keith Pelley, that wasn't just, you know, Keith Pelley just buttering up Jason Hernandez. From everything that I've gathered, that's the wide resounding sentiment around, you know, the organization, and even from other people within Major League Soccer. People view Jason Hernandez as quite the savvy mind when it comes to roster building, specifically when it comes to, you know, understanding MLS rules and understanding how to lever or pull certain levers in Major League Soccer. And you know, obviously he's a first year or rookie general manager. This is his first job as a general manager. So, you know, is everything going to be perfect? No, but I think TFC have someone who, like, you know, in a lot of ways, a Robin Fraser, who they have someone who can grow and develop, and someone who has a high ceiling. Now, is he, like I said, he's going to be perfect out of the gate? No. Does he have a high ceiling? Yes. And is there going to be times where he messes up? Sure. Are things going to go smoothly all the time? No. But do they have, again, just have someone who can develop into an elite MLS GM? I think so. I really do think so.
Nice. It's refreshing to hear that like the sentiment in the league isn't, pointing and laughing at the guy who's sort of a placeholder until Lorenzo Insigne gets out of town. Like it's interesting that isn't following him around like a dark cloud. So
he's pretty well respected in the league.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just saying, I don't think Jason Hernandez is a placer. I don't think Robin Fraser is either. But it isn't a bad thing to have someone who could be in that position, given where the club is currently at, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So then you both touched on some characteristics of Robin Fraser that seem to make him a decent fit. And we kind of, again, Jeff, we kind of talked about in the last show as well. But I guess for both of you, if you look at not just Robin Fraser from his time previously at TFC, but if you start looking at his time in Colorado and some of the success he had there, what sort of makes him the right guy right now? Because Mike, you talked about the changing philosophy of this club, and it's maybe shift towards younger players, Canadian players making up the core of this team. But what makes him the guy right now? Like, why not try to go get the biggest name right now to help you win, and then maybe bringing him in after you get rid of the DPs and you sort of exhausted all your opportunities to be competitive?
Yeah, I think it's where the club is right now. That's the biggest thing, right? They are, full rebuild, as Keith Pelly referred to right off the set. Could that happen quicker in Major League Soccer? Yeah, it absolutely can. The budget thing, which I touched on at the beginning of this episode, I think that's another factor. And then the familiarity. Like this team has gone out. They've gone out and got the, Chris Armises. They've gone out and got the Bob Bradleys. They've gone out and, got the John Herdmans, who, by the way, I don't think John Herdman's time as coach was necessarily a failure by any means. I think he made progress with the club, but obviously his whole time here was kind of a waste of time, given the way that it all ended. So they've gone out and got that John Herdman. Now they're going after something that they know and they're familiar with. And like I said, given the timing, the budget constraints, all of that, they go after like I said, a safer choice in Robin Fraser.
Can't be ignored. I mean, it's right here in a bullet point, and I think, will he be fighting the 16-17 shadow all season? Absolutely, he'll be fighting it his entire tenure here. Even if he takes TFC to the promised land and they do a treble again, people, Martin Bailey will be putting out a comparison of points per game versus the 2017 season. So yeah, of course he's going to wear it. It's not even 2 degrees of separation from the glory days. So,
but is that fair? I know it's not fair, but like, is it like
fair?
Yeah, I guess.
I can't see a universe where he doesn't, and he's the harbinger of his own demise in that respect too, because he talks about it enough. So
he was kind of forced to talk about it in the press conference, right? Like
you say tomato, but he's gonna wear it. Of course, he's gonna wear it. I don't know if it's fair or not. But I think that's kind of the point,
Fair. So let's maybe talk about how he might set up the team. Now, obviously, it's, again, super early in the tenure, but it looks like, in Colorado, just looking up some of the game models that he used there, primarily using either a 3-4-2-1 or a 5-3-2, some combination of 3 at the back. With wing backs, whether they sit deep or they push up a little bit further into the midfield. It sounds like that's potentially, where he might go. But I mean, depending on the roster that he has right now, may change that up. But I mean, the team is kind of set up to play 3 at the back at the moment. So I wonder if he continues down that path, or he may try a wrinkle and try something a little bit different.
I think it's interesting how his tenure started at Colorado, because he came in, I believe, immediately playing something like a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-3-1, and that evolved into some variation of a 3-5-2 or a 5-3-2, whichever way you kind of want to look at that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you do see, things shifting to a 4-3-3. It's really kind of his tenure at Colorado, for a variety of reasons, is kind of a bit of everywhere. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Actually, I don't know what he's married to. I don't think he has to necessarily be married to something, which isn't a bad thing, because we had a coach in John Herman who came in and said, you know what, I'm gonna play
Three at the back.
three at the back because
Yeah.
I studied Major
Yeah.
League Soccer. I studied the best teams, and this is how
Yep.
you get success out of that league. Didn't really matter in a way, who was on the roster at that time, right? He wanted to implement his playing style, and he wanted to shift things around, and that left Bernardeschi playing wingback, which I don't think was a terrible thing. I thought Bernardeschi was successful. You can make an argument, what is he best used as? Are you really benefiting from a DP at wingback versus not? Lorenzo Insigne tucking more inside, was that beneficial to him? Jonathan Osorio tucking more inside, playing higher up the pitch, was that beneficial to him? I don't know. With Robin Fraser, you have someone who's at least willing to, you know, mold the way that I guess he wants to line up on the field around, or he's adaptable, right? I guess is the right easy word I'm looking for. He's adaptable. Are they going to play a certain type of style, like the way that Jason Hernandez described the club's philosophy? Yeah, I expect them to. But does that mean that they'll roll out with a 3-5-2 every game, or they roll out with a 4-3-3 every game? I don't think so. I think we might see some different formations depending on the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to mangle the quote, but he said, I think it was an official TFC article, or maybe a JMO thing on TFC Republic, but he threw out like a bunch of formations and said he wanted the team to be comfortable in at least two, so that he could see different looks. So yeah, I think, far be it for me to suggest that he's going to let the roster decide his formations. I think as much as possible, he's probably going to do that. And then see what he's got, sort of thing,
Yeah. So like to go back to like what I was saying there, and Bill, and what you said, Jeff, it's not about formation then, which is I guess true the way you should look at soccer. It's about how Toronto FC are going to play on the pitch. And one thing that I found very interesting out of his presser was that, in a way, he called that Insigne. Right.
Yeah.
He's
oh yeah.
He said there's gonna be no passengers on the pitch.
No passengers.
Yep. And that came right off the back of Hernandez talking about TFC being a relentless team, a team that runs itself into the ground, essentially. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing what he's saying, but a team that works their tails off game in, game out, with the ball, without the ball.
Looking at you, I'm looking at you. Basically, that was what was going on.
And Robin Fraser, starts off the Insigne quote. Insigne is a great player, but we're gonna have no passengers. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but that was the gist of it. So I found that very interesting as well.
Well, it is interesting in a sense that I don't know. Again, how do you take that quote? We'll see how they play. Does that mean you're, relentlessly pressing a lot? Does it just what does that exactly mean in terms of on the pitch? And do you have the horses on the team right now to play that way? Because if that is the most
Chris Armas PTSD I've had.
Well, that's the thing, right? We kind of went down this well before, but I think if this is the case, I think the team is probably a little bit better off than it was back then. But again, we'd have to see.
So when I was hearing that, I was trying to understand the difference between Red Bulls and Philadelphia Union and what Jason Hernandez was saying. And those teams, the Red Bulls and the Union, who play that Red Bull philosophy, obviously the Union with Kurt in there, they often lose the possession battle, right? They play a high intensity, high pressing type of game, a very physical game, but oftentimes it's without the ball. Jason Hernandez said that he wants his team to be on the ball and dominating the ball, and wants the pace of play to be very quick. meaning he doesn't want the ball to die in midfield. He doesn't want the switches to be slow. He wants the ball moving, or he wants people making decisions quickly. That doesn't necessarily equate to that Chris Armas style. It's different. However, the way that was described is the way I think almost every coach and team would want to play football. You want to be the team that's on the front foot. You want to be the team that's controlling the game. And then when you're not, you want to be the team that's closing, balls down and winning the ball back quickly. Isn't that?
Yeah. And I mean, if you look statistically at this team last year, there were times in the season where they were very good in terms of holding possession or having a lot of possession. Now, of course, what you do with that is really the sign of things. But I just wonder again, is this team, sorry to Luis's sort of comment here, is do TFC have enough players that are safe with the ball? Do they have enough players that it can make the right decisions with the ball to play that quickly, right? Because as you said, Mike, to play that quickly, you have to have high IQ players who can make decisions very quickly and be able to make the kind of passes or to move the ball in possession, at least quick enough for that pace to be that way. And I just question if TFC kind of have those particular horses at the moment. Part of me says
no. Have to. I think this is the start of the rebuild, and I think this is
That's a fair answer.
This is them starting to work and build towards that. Do they have the means to, get rid of the players who don't fit that mold right now? Not necessarily, unfortunately. And there are going to be players on this roster who don't fit that. But do they now have a vision to work towards? Yes.
I like that answer.
It's easier said than done. And a lot of managers have come in and coaches have expressed their vision and haven't been able to see it through. What timeline is Jason Hernandez going to get to accomplish this vision? It was Greg Vanney, I think, had said this. It always takes 2 years for a manager or a coach or a sporting director to really feel their imprint being made on a club. Is this the start of Jason Hernandez's 2 years? Does it start last year, given the moves that he made? But regardless, it's going to take time for us to get to a point where we say the players on this roster are made to play that style. And obviously, at least without the ball, Lorenzo Insigne isn't made to play that style. I think that's very, very obvious.
Yeah. Check out Aaron Ginsberg here, still holding that flag in like a strong tornado for World Cup 2026.
Yeah, let's just throw that out as an
Aaron, I'm sorry, man. This club's on fire. Like those plans for 2026 are as much a folly as anything at this point.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It doesn't
never
take
say
that
never.
Long.
Never say never, but I don't think it should be the priority, like the push for 2026, because that's when the wheels fall off, right? They've got other things to worry about than like this ephemeral coaching World Cup
that's
thing.
Fair.
You know what I mean?
And the other thing is, man, you look around the Eastern Conference and you look around at the moves that are being made.
Disgusting.
And
so mad.
The clubs out there, they're playing chess right now. And TFC is 2, 3, 4. They're four steps behind that right now.
Yep.
But they could be planning for that next wave, right? Because Major League Soccer, it evolves every 2 years, it feels like. At times every year, where what was good in 2017, you put that 2017 TFC team on the pitch now, it would not be the over-the-top balls from Seba to Josie Altidore aren't happening as much. The defending is much better. The defenders are more athletic. Teams are harder to play against in this league, and moving forward, there's a lot more of those game breakers around the league, and the bar is being raised in MLS. So.
Fair. Let me maybe play just a quick, not even devil's advocate. I'll sort of advocate for some fans who feel like although yes, look, it is early in preseason per se. For a lot of people, like you said, Michael, they're looking at moves being made by teams in the Eastern Conference, even in the West, right? Where, like you said, dudes out here playing checkers and we out here, trying to play operation. Like we're not playing the same game. You know what I mean? And can you understand fans' frustration in the sense that we've known kind of what this team needs. I don't think it's a mystery really in terms of what TFC needs, and that change has not happened as quickly as people may want, given the fact that I think the front office has kind of known what needs to change.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's. Sorry, you want to go, Jeff?
Well, I just think that the statement is so disingenuous. It's like Lewis is mirroring the same thing. Like the roster budget changes are rewarding teams that spend money. TFC isn't spending the money to take advantage of it. Like, we spent the money. It just didn't work, and now we're saddled with this albatross contract. Like that statement ignores. Like, oh, TFC doesn't spend any money. No, of course, TFC spends a lot of money. We're still spending a lot of money. We're just getting no return for that investment.
We spend it in the wrong places.
So, yeah, we spend it in the wrong places. We can have that argument. But to present a statement like, I'm looking around the Eastern Conference and other teams are spending money and my club TFC isn't. I'll raise you. They bought us a kaiju, which is fantastic. And I can't wait to take my pictures with the giant robot murder hawk. And two,
you had to get that in, eh?
Well, two, I mean,
those eyes
but
judge.
But you can't, like, what is it? Is it sunk cost fallacy again? Like, he's on the books. Like, the money that they're spending doesn't meet us. It still doesn't meet the money that we spent already. So we can have the argument about the quality of the player and the level of incompetence of the deal, but do not come at me with this like, woe is me, every other team is spending money and TFC sitting on their hands, buy us a striker already kind of thing, because it ignores the major problem with this team for the last 2 years. And Brady said it right there. I mean, I don't know how better to say it. Insigne is eating all of MLSE's money presently. I mean, there's no other way to say it.
Well, I mean, look, we started this offseason by saying, can you call this a true rebuild if you still have Lorenzo Insigne on the roster? And it was a resounding no. And I still feel that way. I still don't feel like we've turned the page on whatever version of Toronto FC there was a year ago, 2 years ago, really since Lorenzo Insigne arrived. I still feel like, as long as he's here, it's going to be tough for this team to fully turn that page. And, if there are no deals out there to be made, and if it's a lot of money, then it's easy for me to be behind a camera saying this, but you got to put your money where your mouth is. And if you're going to say all options are on the table, take it seriously and invest in this team, because this team, when it's good. I mean, hey, Robin Fraser said this. When this team is good and it's rolling, there's something special that happens at BMO Field, and the fan base is. They brought out, a few fans, reward them. This team a lot of fans have stuck by this team, and a lot of fans have, really endured a lot. Let's find a way to move on.
That way is a GoFundMe where we're all donating to get Lorenzo out of here. So that
here officially, Michael Singh is in the buyout Lorenzo Insigne train. Market, it's done.
He is not. He is not.
I'm talking like there's unlimited money out there, and there's no business operations to weigh. And
exactly.
Yeah,
I think you're right. Like, all options on the table when not all options are on the table. For the 50th time coming out of the front office got old a year ago. Do you know what I mean? But I think we can safely say, considering the heat that was happening in this offseason, considering what was coming out of the club, the fact that there are no suitors, and Hernandez, I believe, said that explicitly to John in the scrum after the press conference. He said,
no offers.
We have received no offers, right? So after all that public, like, you put 2 and 2 together. They shopped him everywhere, and the answer was no thanks. Now, whether that was because of his quality, whether it was because of the package TFC put together, we may never know, but we certainly can guess, and I would bet heavy on the guess that they tried to move mountains. And we can argue about the level of mountains moving and whether it was enough. But, I think they did try to move mountains to get the player moved. And I also think his agent did a lot of heavy lifting and nothing happened. So, yikes.
Listen, the word no offers is a very technical term, and
agreed. It's still, he said it. He
an easy way.
He did say it.
But what's he going to say? Lorenzo Insigne is in training camp with Toronto FC.
So that's the safest. You're saying that no offers isn't the damning sort of gaffe that I think it is?
No, I think no offers is a hey, listen, we haven't got anything official. Have there been discussions?
But after a full course press, I think that says exactly what I was insinuating, right? Like after they're out there on the X machine, please take him, check out his highlight reel, and then you get the no offer statement. Like, I don't know. I agree with you, Mikey, saying like people were pissed that no one was asking about Lorenzo in the press conference proper. So if no one had said something in the scrum, it would have been riots, so I guess I was wrong. I thought it was a bit of a gaffe, but I guess
so you're not wrong, Jeff, but in my opinion, with where Jason Hernandez is in that position, knowing that, listen, there still is a chance that Lorenzo Insigne remains on Toronto FC's roster at the start of the season, knowing that you do still have to maintain, a relationship with Lorenzo should things go that route. And regardless, I think Jason Hernandez, a human being that he is, wants to, do right by anybody, regardless of how they've, perhaps treated the club. That he's going to, he's not going to use the media to negotiate, I guess, is the best way to do that. I think there's still work going on by Hernandez, Keith Pelly, whoever else is involved, Lorenzo Insigne's parties, to find a resolution. I still do believe that.
Sure.
Is that resolution easy? No. Obviously, you're talking about someone who makes $15 million a season when Napoli, his former club, wasn't willing to offer him, $7 million. So even if TFC eat half of his salary, there still isn't going to be clubs that are coming knocking on the door.
It's so terrible.
Go after Insigne. And then the other part of it is, does Insigne want to go there? Right? Does Insigne want to go to, a Saudi league? Or would he rather, chill in Yorkville and have his kids go to Raptors games and attend Raptors games with his kids and collect his $15 million paycheck? Right?
I think we all know the answer to that.
That said, there's a very real possibility still that Lorenzo Insigne is moved, this window.
I'm pulling out the Mike Newell gambit. I have Mike Newell on tape. If Lorenzo traveled to Marbella, then he's with us for the rest of the year. That is Mike Newell, fresh off from last weekend. I am holding it to it.
Well, no, what I said was I would be concerned if he's on the team because he gets in that training and blows a hamstring, and then
you said he's reserved to water boy and doing keepy ups on the side of the pitch. And if you watched his Instagram, he scored a worldie against one of the TFC 3 academy trialists. So let's give the man his flowers. He scored that goal. He always scores against the child. Yeehaw. Yeah. So where are we in the run?
Yeah. We're at that time where we need to stop talking about Lorenzo Insigne. All right. Well, let's transition here. The Rebs are in Spain right now. You're going to be in training camp there until February 3rd or 4th, I believe. And then, of course, they come back to Toronto for a few days and then head to Florida for the final leg of training ahead of their opener against DC United on February 22nd. So now that they're in Spain, now we got players in camp. You know,
Alex, refresh your browser, dude. Sorry. I was trying to help. Oh yeah.
Well, he's been commenting.
It's been 40 minutes.
Yeah.
He's been
You just
commenting.
It's been 40 minutes.
Yeah.
He's been
commenting. He wins. You win the super fan of the
How are you commenting?
Watching
That's
a
crazy.
blank screen.
Good for you.
Are they
Alex.
talking about Insigne yet? Yeah, we are.
But aside from the Insigne drama,
40 minutes.
I know, it's wild. Aside from the Insigne drama, what are the big questions that are facing TFC going in the first part of training camp? Like, in your mind, what are the things that they're trying to sort of sort out here, in part one of camp?
Yeah, it's a great question. I have a couple things that have come to mind. Usage of Federico Bernardeschi. Is he going to be playing higher up the pitch? How can they unlock more from him? Do they need to unlock more from him from a goals, assists, production perspective? Is he going to be the guy that creates goals? Or do they prefer him in that wingback role? Because, he was very good in that role. His work rate was good. Question marks defensively heading into it, I think he put all of that at ease with his ability to play both, defensively and moving forward. He had a great season. Work rate, again, is off the charts. Now, how is another head coach going to use Bernardeschi? Number 2 is Theo Corbeanu. Is very interesting acquisition by this team, and one that I really like. Another thing that a lot of the young players, had told me, and I used to ask a lot of young players about Jukil Merceretti. This was, earlier on during, I would say, his first 2-3 seasons with Toronto FC. I'd always try to get some insight about how it was, playing through the academies with Jukil. And, one of the questions I always pose to young players is, seeing how young Jukil is and how he's kind of shot up the ranks here, and seeing some of the successes that he had at, some of the younger tournaments with TFC's academy. Is he the most, kind of talented player that you've seen play or come through Toronto FC that you've played with? And every single time it was actually no. They pointed to Theo Corbeanu.
Wow.
And if you speak to, let's just say like a Jaden Nelson or a Ralph Priso, they'll tell you that Theo Corbeanu's ability and skill set on the ball was the best that they've seen. And I'm excited to see exactly how they use him, given that they have their now Wingers FC, which is something I guess Greg Vanney would have killed for.
Oops, all wingers, as Alan Ginsberg said.
But yeah, no, they're now Winger FC, and does he play, on the right wing?
I just got the joke from earlier in the chat. TFC's Wild Wing era. I just got the joke. Sorry
that's
about
a good
that.
one.
There we go.
Wild Winger. Yeah. Does Theo play wing back? Does he play striker? Is there anything through the middle for him? Like that's another thing I'm looking for. Number 3 is Jonathan Osorio.
Yep.
What is his role in this Toronto FC team? Because last year was probably one of the more disappointing years we've seen at Ozo. It was a disappointment for a lot of players, but I think Ozo in particular, from a contribution perspective, didn't deliver. No, taking on a different role, taking on the armband, understanding the responsibilities that comes with that, wearing that on the pitch, it's a lot. And there's obviously an adjustment period. I thought as a captain, he did grow into that. And I thought as the season went along, he did grow. But I think when you're playing that high up the pitch, you do need to contribute more. So is he going to continue to play there, or is it Robin Fraser going to drop him to more of a traditional 8 or a traditional 6? Right. We've seen Greg Vanney do that with Ozo in the past. Ozo's obviously evolved as a player. He's not that same player that he was under Greg Vanney. But I do wonder if there is a role deeper in Toronto FC's midfield for Ozo, or if Robin Fraser thinks he can get more out of Ozo offensively. So that's obviously one of the things I'm watching for. Lastly, it's Toronto FC's back line. Who is Toronto FC's starting fullbacks and starting center backs? If we're going in a back 3, do they look at the back 3 of last year, which was Kevin Long, Nixon Gomes, and I guess now Henry Wingo? Or does Raul Petretta slide in there somehow?
Yeah.
And does he play in that back three? If they go into a back four, does Raul Petretta start at left back, Nixon Gomes, Kevin Long, and Richie Laryea? Right? It's I want to know who Robin Fraser believes is this team's best 11. Now, all that being said, it is worth pointing out that more signings are obviously coming.
Yeah.
Right? That are going to change up the outlook of this team. And I think more starters are coming, more specifically. So what's true today and what's questioned today is not going to be true, a week from now, 2 weeks from now. Right? I think some signings are imminent. So let's see how that shakes out. But those are the things I'm watching for, at least right now.
Cool. Jeff, awesome. You wanted to jump in?
Training friendlies against international club teams that we haven't done since like 2015, I believe, was the scuttlebutt on the WTR Slack. Certainly, my birthday we play against Burger King Häcken. That's amazing. Can't wait for that game. And Fredrikstad. Fredrikstad, 9 league championships, 12 Norwegian Cup wins. Founded in 1903. Sounds fun. BK Häcken, my friend Johan, who I've been a podcast guest on a few times, gave us this nugget. Häcken won the Swedish Premier Division in 2022, but haven't been as good after that. Eric Freeberg, the former Seattle Sounders midfielder, is now their sporting director. Adam Lundqvist, who previously played for the Houston Dynamo and Austin FC, currently plays for them. So that was a little nugget. We'll try and get Johan on to sort of preview it because it is in his wheelhouse, that team, closer to the date. And also TFC have played, thanks to Martin Bailey, 2 games against my new favorite team, BK Häcken. Once in 2009, Robinson, Vitti, and Di Rosario scored for a 3-0 victory. And then in 2012 at the Disney Pro Soccer Classic, remember that Tournament of Champions?
Oh, yeah.
It was 3-1. And it was Johnson, Orozco, and Plata with a stoppage time dagger. And like I said, February 18th, 2012. Looking forward to that. It's been a while. We haven't had CONCACAF in what seems like an eternity. So I'm going to take these friendlies and I'm going to run with them, man. I'm getting half and half scarves made. It's going to be amazing.
BK Häcken used to be the TFC preseason guaranteed stamp it. We're playing that team for a while because they used to train in Florida all the time.
Now they train in Spain with us.
Now
That's
they train in Spain. That'll be interesting. And of course, it'll be interesting to see how, again, like you said, to some of the questions that you asked there, Mike, like how does Robin Fraser use some of those and start to, not because he's going to answer them in these 2 games, but start to answer some of those questions in that space. Because, I think the one you're talking about, Oso, is a big one, right? Oso, we know the record. We've talked about it on the show about how sort of bad TFC are when Oso is not playing and just how they struggle to win games when he's not playing. Yet you are correct in the sense that his contributions to the stat sheet, if you want to call it that, were not the same last year. And I guess I wonder, if his role is going to change, then are you thinking he's dropping back a little bit more? Is he going to hold? Because we've had this sort of back and forth with him all the time. Is he an 8? Is he a 6? Is he a 10? Where exactly is his best sort of spot on the pitch? And I wonder if Robin Fraser goes back and says, hey, you're an 8 and you're kind of everywhere.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's what I'm wondering. It's not that he can't play as a 10. I think he could play as a 10, but
he's not the 10 we're looking for.
It's tough with the wingers that TFC have to operate as
Winger FC.
Yeah.
The Wild Wing era.
At least under the last system. No, does that mean that Ozo can't play hard at the pitch? No. I mean, Ozo can absolutely, he's proven that he can. Ozo 100%. Can score goals. He can be that late runner into the box. In the past, he's been used as an 8 successfully as well, as a 6 successfully. He's been used as a right winger, left winger successfully. That was kind of that Swiss Army knife. I'm just fascinated to see what they do. I don't know what the right answer is. Depends on a lot of different things. But I've always been of the mindset that, this team does need more goal scoring creation. And we've talked about the need for, in our opinions, a more traditional number 10 and someone who can kind of break the teams down through the middle of the park as opposed to just, down the sideline. So I think that's where I'm leaning.
Yeah, and your question about Corbanu is interesting as well, because as we sort of joke about Winger FC, the where he plays will be interesting because, you think about all these wingers, but you got to be also thinking that some are leaving, right? Like in terms of just making space on the roster. And we're not just talking about Insigne, but like other players you conceivably think will have to start making their way out the exit if you want to start bringing in some of the signings we're talking about here.
Oh, yeah.
Well, from just a roster perspective, yeah, perhaps, but they have room. I believe they have contract space as well. So do they have to? No. From a positional perspective, would it be smart? Perhaps. I mean, like, you're looking at people like, Derek Etienne Jr. Is that who you're kind of referring to?
Sort of, yeah.
Kobe Franklin, but he's more of a fullback. Tyrese Spicer is obviously a winger. Like, I think they have good quality wingers, and I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah.
I think this is a stage they need to get to. Like, if you want to be a competitive team. So do you have to sacrifice someone on the wing in order to bring someone in the midfield? I don't think you need to. I think they have space to do both.
Fair. I guess I wonder if the idea then is, you think about somebody like a Tyrese Spicer, right? Like, where is he best deployed on this team? Is it a winger? Is it as a wing back? Do you try him? Maybe. I know they sort of for 1.5 of a game tried him as a striker, but like, is this a season where you kind of take some time to figure out, okay, where does Tyrese best help this team?
I think so.
Because it looks like he can, right? He looks like he can play in this league and contribute in this league. I guess it's just a question of where best will he fit on the squad.
Yeah, exactly. Tyrese is a very interesting one, right? The left wing back was kind of the role that he settled into kind of down the stretch. He was never really the same after the injury. After that back injury, he started off red hot, was exciting, had pace, was driving at people. It kind of felt like he lost a step or lost his confidence after that injury, and that happens all the time. So he's another guy that I'm looking forward to seeing how he comes into, training camp. How does he compete for a spot? Is it left wing back, as you kind of pointed out, Mike? Is it at that number 9 role, which right now, obviously, there isn't much competition aside from really a DeAndre Kerr, maybe Charlie Sharp, or is it something else? And I guess we'll have to wait and see with Tyrese, but his development shouldn't be overlooked. I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. To wrap up the show, we'll go through our final 5 over-unders from 2024. It's not our final 5,
because we had like 20 left to do, which I love.
And like
when we do the over-unders, we're still doing everybody on the roster.
Yeah.
Let me know on the Twitter machine if you want me to just post the supercuts to our YouTube, because I have them, and it includes all the ones that we're not going to cover tonight. Just for completeness sake for all of you hardcores. But anyway, first on our list is
Alonso Cabello. We talked about him a lot. I'm setting his over-under at 4.5 yellow cards this season. One of the things the reason why I put this in is because we talked about it. He's tackling a little bit more. How much is Davy Flores going to rub off on him? Will there be some tactical fouls in the mix? So just to give you some context, last season, in about 1,200 minutes, he's on pace to smash that. He picked up 2 yellow cards. This year, so far, through 5 matches, he's started every single one of TFC's games. No yellow cards this year to start this year. And Kenny as our guest. I'm gonna throw it to you first.
I'm gonna throw in a contingency here. Is the strike over yet?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Let's assume that
I'm gonna go with over. I'm gonna go with over.
They've been yellow card happy. TFC leading the league in yellow cards picked up, actually. So somehow, some way, Alonso Cuellar's find a way to avoid that. It could just be the fact that he has this like innocent look on his face. It's like, that kid can do no wrong.
It's easy to avoid yellow cards when you're playing beside Davey Flores.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think the chat typically agrees. Jeff, what do you think?
I mean, I'm gonna go over just because right now everybody gets a yellow card just by existing. So
it's actually a resounding under. If I just go through these quickly.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Gord saying over. Okay, Martin under. Josh under.
Not changing mine.
G-Money. Koyo is the Thomas Caberlet of TFC. I can love myself a good this reference. I'm going to go under as well. He's too kind. He's just too much of a good person.
Mike Newell goes under as well.
Fun fact, he's got his master's degree as well.
In yellow cards?
He can talk his way out of a yellow card. He's a smart guy.
Don't you get a yellow card for trying to talk yourself out of a yellow card?
Not if you do it.
How soccer works.
Not if you have a degree.
Yeah, I didn't. Oh, excuse me. You can't give me a yellow card. I have a degree in no yellow cards.
Pulls out the diploma.
Yeah.
So, did we check to confirm?
Yes, we have checked in terms of how many cards he ended up with. He ended up with 4.
Ooh.
Just under. We said his over and a half at 4.5.
Yeah.
He ended up with 4.
We all took that one.
You know what? He did start to develop a little bit of that nastiness that kind of I was referring to it there. He did start to develop it. Is there another step forward it can go off the ball? Yeah. But I did start to see signs of Alonso being a little bit, just like I said, a little bit more nasty in the midfield.
Nice. And I like that we all were like Nostradamus about TFC winning the yellow card derby for the season. So, we were definitely.
That's another thing. Robert.
Remember when the refs were on strike? I totally forgot. Remember Barry's that?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, here we go.
DeAndre Kerr over under 7.5 goals this year. Will DeAndre Kerr score at least 8 goals this season? He had a career high 5 goals in about 1,200 minutes last season, 16 starts. Will he eclipse that mark this season?
Over. Vibes. Over because vibes.
Over because if he doesn't, we are in a lot of trouble.
We're in a world of pain.
We are in a world of pain if he can't pot the goal. Let's hope he can get more than 8 this year, because we're gonna need it.
I got under. It's a lot. I mean, he scored 5 and he hit 5 last year, and he had an incredible year. Could he score 6? Could he score 7? Yeah. Is he gonna get up to 8? I'm not quite convinced, and I'm on the DeAndre Kerr train all the way. I just think there's other parts to his game that he does beyond score. Is there a guarantee that he's the starting number 9 come July with this Toronto FC team? There's not. We're really banking on this Canadian Championship to save some of our over-unders here. Canadian Championship.
All right. Now let me preface. This is TFC's all-time single game score leader, DeAndre Kerr. Let's just make sure that he's got that Riz before we go. What was the final tally?
Yeah, so he does hit the over if it's all competitions, right? So if it's all competitions, he's over.
Exactly.
Sorry?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But he had 5 in one game.
Yeah.
So
what a game! What a game!
He had 5-1 game 3 in the league. So
I did say it, man. If we're really banking on the Canadian Championship to help us get that over,
but you still voted under. It still counts, Mikey Singh. So there you go.
What I said? I said I had a 7.5, right? Or was it 8.5?
Yeah.
7.5. You guys got it.
Yeah, we got it. We got it. Yeah. It's a rare Jeff and Mike Newell victory. They don't happen very often.
We had to thank God we had to play a semi-pro team.
And in fact,
I knew. Anyway, here we go.
Federico Bernardeschi. I think I might have said it too high. I said his over-under for total goals scored this year at 6.5. So will Federico Bernardeschi score at least 7 goals this season? So far this year, obviously no goals. Last year, he had 5 goals. The year before, he had 8 goals in 13 games played. What do you say, Annie?
We're trying positivity here, right? So I'm going to say over.
Positive vibes. It's been that way since the start of the year.
I'm gonna go over. Yeah, I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna give Fede the benefit of the doubt.
Well,
I'm gonna go over.
That would not have come.
Because I've been saying it. I think the floodgates open after he gets the first one. I really, really do.
Yeah.
I probably guess put it right on the money there because it seems like the chat split. I'm gonna go under, and I think because of what I touched on earlier, I don't think TFC need him to score as many goals. That might change if Insigne's out for an extended period of time. I think more pressure will definitely be put on Fede's shoulders to produce.
And Newell is over.
I'm so happy I said that Insigne line after.
Because
I heard
knew.
myself say, I'm like, TFC don't need Bernardeschi to produce.
Yeah.
What?
So he was under, wasn't he?
No, he was over.
No,
he
he's
got
very much over.
9 goals.
Oh, he got no. That's right. Okay.
8 MLS goals, 1 in the Can Champ. So 9 goals total for Fede, which is actually a pretty respectable total considering that he's played wing back for the majority of.
Got him his contract extension, so I think TFC's crack team of contract negotiators agreed.
Did we talk about that, by the way?
No, we
didn't. But for those who
don't
know. Yeah, for those who don't know or didn't hear about it, his because he hit certain milestones with the club in 2024.
He ate it milestones.
He got his contract extended to 2028, so he is a Toronto FC player until 2028. So I mean,
let's
look,
go, man.
Look, for a man who got a lot of heat at the end of the previous season, he showed up. The man put his money where his mouth was. So
I love his all for one. Also, it was great. Like that's twice now that they've caught him at a dinner party where everybody's like just mainlining carbs, and he's like got like a little radish salad, and he's so sad. But like he's doing that for us guys, and you gotta be impressed by that. Anyway, here.
Yeah. Baby Flores, destroyer in the middle of the park. I got his over under set at 4.5 yellow cards this season. So just gives everyone some context. Last year, he had 3 yellows in 16 appearances in Hungary. He has 0, actually, surprisingly, so far this season.
Should have had at least one. Okay.
At least one. I'm sure he's gotten away with a couple.
I'm going to say over. He plays with that edge, that aggression, and I like that about him. We sometimes need that player, and I'm okay with, I don't want to see him exceed like 7, 8, 9, but yeah, I could see him easily getting 5.
Yeah, Chad agrees with you.
MLS refs are back, so I definitely think he's going to get a red and a few yellows over. I like the way he plays. I think it's something on Saturday you saw we've missed for years. We haven't had that type of player. I think, said it on the Tunnel Club, I think if he was on in the start of the second half, I don't think they concede 2 of those goals. But I think he's going to get some yellows in some of those games. I've had this prediction he's going to get 1 this weekend, if not a red this weekend. I think he'll be on a mission to prove something to Vancouver, or why they let him go, right? So I like him, but I think he will be an over.
He actually only had 1 yellow card with Vancouver during his span there, I think across the course of maybe 20-something odd matches. A reputation is something he'll build up here in MLS as well. That can mean referees look out for you a little bit more if you're known to be more of that Destroyer 6. You probably get a little bit more of a spotlight in Toronto. I'm relating it to like the Leafs. I always relate it to the Leafs. I love the Leafs.
I'm going to go under. I feel like the underlying stats in his career say that he actually does not get as many yellow cards as we think he gets. Because just the way he tackles makes you think he's going to get a yellow card. Yeah. He's got to get a yellow at some point, right? But I actually think if you kind of look at a lot of his tackles, a lot of them are more interceptions than like really hard sliding, studs up challenges. And he times tackles actually really well.
He's a good tackler. Yeah.
He's a very good tackler. And then I think that's why I think he'll be slightly under that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going under. I think 5's high for a player who has shown the ability to evade yellow cards, I guess, so far this season in his career for the most part.
What did Jeff have on there?
Sorry, Jeff took over.
Well, he is a good tackler. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. He is. But, he definitely got
obliterated
9 yellow cards.
Yeah, he obliterated that.
Justin League. Justin League. I don't have his Canadian Championship or Leagues Cup, but he got 1,000
after that.
My
favorite part of that clip is he's gonna show them at Vancouver. If memory serves, he laid the biggest egg. Like he had the worst game to that point in a TFC shirt, didn't he?
Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah.
Though I'll tell you, just for interest, just very interesting. Fede led the team in yellows in the league with 13.
Yeah, how many of those were for dissent?
He got got sent off 3 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Davey and Kevin Long were second, tied for second
Okay,
with 9.
Say what you want about that, and obviously discipline is an issue. Those 3 players that you just named there, Davey, Kevin Long, Bernardeschi, those are 3 players that leave it out on the pitch every single time.
Oso tied for 3rd with 8.
Oso as well, right? You throw them in there. Like those are the types of guys, you know, Richie as well. Those are the types of players I think that you know TFC want to bring in more, because they're going to be the types of guys that
smash that yellow card record this year. Smash it to the moon, guys. Seriously, we're going to smash it. All right, last one up. And there.
Kosi Thompson.
Mr. Short Shorts.
Mr. Short Shorts. All 4 of his appearances off the bench this year. He made 14 last season, 24 in 2022. So I'm setting his over-under for appearances made at 23.5 in all competitions for Toronto FC.
I'm saying yes. I'm saying that Herbie's seeing something in the kid. So we'll see if he can bring it out.
He definitely is, because he was one of the first guys off the bench game 1.
Yeah.
And he still is going to him over and over.
I say over as well. He's going to come up on 23.5 really quickly. We're not talking starts, we're talking appearances. It's all comps. Yeah, we're over.
He seems like a guy that Herman trusts to like see out a game. Like if TFC have a lead, he's comfortable putting him in those situations. That said, I'm going under. I always do it. As much as I always do this, I'm going under.
Contrarian.
Reason is what I talked
We've
about.
been
It's
singed.
like when TFC are healthy, he drops down that depth chart, right? We're talking about guys like Jaquil Marcheretti coming off the bench instead of Kosi Thompson. What happens when Brandon Cervania gets healthy? Could TFC also go out and add to this group come summertime? Those are all factors I'm kind of leaning on here to say that I don't think he's going to make 24 appearances. Just my thought. Gray here saying we should have made this the question. Will his shorts get shorter by 2 inches?
Then he's going to prison, Gray. And he's going to prison. Newell is over. He's over.
Is over. Okay. That's so funny.
Yeah. And over 29 in the league. Again, I don't have his Canadian championships, but he'll be well over 30 with Canadian championships.
38 in all competitions.
Yeah.
Which is
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, that's really high. I mean, Kosi is someone we don't talk about, too often, at least during the off season. But man, kind of reinvented himself under Herdman, and took a big step forward, I think, in his career. He had a hard time in Norway for a number of different reasons. Came back to Toronto FC, earned the trust, reinvented himself, like I said, as more of a 6, almost like that Davy Flores mold, which we talked about. And again, he's a guy that we'll see how he progresses under Robin Fraser.
Yeah, I could see him progressing under Robin Fraser. I actually really do. And he's a guy who I think has not just gained, he obviously gained the trust of John Herdman, but I think he's gained the trust of his teammates. I think this is a guy his teammates think okay, this guy come in, he can do a job, right? And it'll be interesting to see how again Robin sort of uses the bench this year, and who are sort of the guys that are going to come off and do a lot of the minutes for him off the bench. Because as much as we talk about the starting roles and who's going to start, there's going to be some competition, I think, for those bench spots, those sort of first 2 or 3 guys off the bench. Who are those going to be?
Well, the thing is, and they'll have more options, right? Like you said, especially when they sign a few more players. You're looking at the players that they lost. Okay, Prince, Shane O'Neill, Brandon Cervania. We're not talking about guys who were game changers for this Toronto FC team.
No.
But when you look at their bench, you're still talking about quality players, like potentially a Matty Longstaff on the bench, potentially that Derek Etienne Jr. doesn't have to start 20 something games for Toronto FC this season. Instead, he'll come off the bench and feature for 20 something games. If Insigne goes down, you have a guy like Theo Corbin.
When Insigne goes down.
Sure. Fair. You have a guy like Theo Corbeanu who can, step up and not be as much of a drop off as we've seen in the past, right? Yeah. So when Insigne's healthy, maybe it's a guy like Tyrese Spicer coming off the bench, more often. They have options. They have more options this year, which is like the roster is better this year than it was last year.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's put it this way. I think the roster will be better than it was last year. Right now, at the moment, it feels like the same roster, and I get why people feel that way.
Yeah. For sure.
We'll see what changes they make. Just a reminder for people who don't remember about the window. So the MLS window is not open yet. Like all these moves are happening, and yes, they're being announced, but they don't actually take effect until the 31st. Which is an interesting one for MLS European window, and a whole separate conversation around, whether you're changing the season and when you're going to play, if you're going to play in the FIFA windows or the European window. But MLS window opens on the 31st. I believe it ends in like mid-April. So TFC's got time to make moves, right? Like they've got time. It may not be from Europe, or they're going to have to. If they're going to make a move from Europe, we'll have to see. But in terms of signing guys, whether interleague or from South America or things like that, that is available to them.
Yep, 100%.
Last thing I just want to quickly bring up is it's a really good point, and I think it's a fair question. Anthony Marvio saying in the chat, can Insigne become like Bernardeschi? Can he outperform our expectation? I think he definitely can outperform our expectation, because I think our expectations are nothing right now.
yeah, my expectations.
Well, that's like Bernardeschi last year, right? Like, I don't think anybody
Instagram post and a Louis Vuitton bag.
Well, look, I mean, we kind of tried this last year, right? We were like, okay, if he buys into Herdman and Herdman can get him on board, and and look, for those first couple of games. Hey, remember the shows we were running at that time? The first couple of games of the season, we're like, he's bought in, tips. he's running, he's
tips and hugs. Yep,
right, like jumping into his arms and everything. We thought, okay, maybe
so romantic.
He was winning TFC games by himself last year. Start the year.
Yeah. So if he stays, maybe, but again, right now, Luis, I agree with you in terms of if we were talking ourselves into this again. Like I just don't. I think we've seen the sample size is large enough at this point, right? Yeah.
The question was, could Insigne do it? Yes.
Yeah, what
is the likelihood?
I could give birth to an orangutan. Like there's
it's like a 5-10% chance, right?
There's a better chance that he's gonna play better soccer this year than I'm gonna give birth to an orangutan. I will concede that point.
That's an image to leave everybody off on. Thank you for tuning into another Toronto Till I Die episode.
Shout out to the Tunnel Club boys, because we played them. Shout out to Annie Hart, who was a guest at the top of the season.
The hell was
last
I doing
year.
at that time? I don't even remember.
Back on, probably Jay's things. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Hey,
shout out Tony Taters, eh?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Shout out Tony Taters, Anthony Santander.
I know. Let's not. I gotta start figuring out work stuff for him. So thank you for turning into another Toronto Till I Die episode. Follow us on Instagram and all the socials. You can just search Toronto Till I Die. On Insta, we are TTID Show. If you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube. For all you watching us on YouTube, we love you. Thank you so much. Please subscribe if you haven't. And for the podcast listeners, just go ahead, rate, review wherever you get your pods. We appreciate it. We're going to start asking for comments again, because we'd love to get your comments going into 2025, either about the show and how we're doing, or just TFC in general. And maybe we'll reply, and we'll do that throughout the season. But it's good to have the boys back online. Without getting too personal, Jeff, good luck to you this week. We wish you well, buddy, as always. For Michael Singh and for Jeffrey P. Nesker, I'm Michael Newell. We'll see you next week. Cheers, all. Bye.
Peace. Cheers. Oh, wait, I got to push a button, don't I?
And wait, and baby, I'm TFC till I die.